Greetings folks, and welcome to another episode of 81632-bit. I'm Rob Hitchin, I'm hosting this today, and today I'm going to be looking at a very special video game. Sure, a lot of you have seen recently that a new port of Sega's Virtua Racing has been done for the Switch by M2, and it looks superb. Well, today I'm going to look at something a little bit different. I'm going to look at the Megadrive version and the 32X version. Now, I don't have the 32X version, but obviously I have the Megadrive version here with the SVP processor in it, and this was something really interesting at the time. By the time Sega released this on the Megadrive, the game itself had been out in the arcades for a couple of years, and Nintendo had been releasing games such as Star Fox, Stunt Race FX, throwing polygons around, albeit at a low frame rate and quite low resolution. So Sega's response, given that the Saturn was still some time away, was this. They developed their own extra processor to combat the FX2 or FX chip that Nintendo had, and it was the Sega Virtua processor. And it was good, given that the Mega Drive was a faster machine with its base clock anyway than Nintendo's SNES. This little cartridge, well, not so little cartridge here, with its extra processor in, produced something which was faster and many would argue better looking than the Nintendo FX games. Now, this, I'm going to keep lifting it up because it fills the screen, was really expensive when it came out. I think this was retailing for about £70 back in 1994, I think it was, which today is way over £100. But lots of people bought it because there was nothing else like it. The closest you had, I think, was a Mega Drive version of hard driving, which was slow, clunky, and frankly shit. But this was brilliant for the time. I think it was about 15 to 20 frames a second, which doesn't sound like a lot, but at the time that was outstandingly good. So let's have a look at some footage from the game and we'll see just how good it really was. So here we have Virtua Racing using the Sega SVP chip on the Sega Megadrive. Now, as you can clearly see, is a nice little polygon intro, and here is a track sequence basically copying the Model 1 arcade machine, and it looks pretty good, all things told. It's clearly moving at a reasonable rate and it looks good. So here's the options. We'll just go straight into a race here because I'm not playing about with too much. So you select your track, of course, from the classic beginner, medium and expert tracks. I'll just go for the beginner, which is probably the one most people are familiar with. And here we go. You have the pit crew. You can see the low frame rate there on the pit crew and the low poly count, but this is still impressive. Now, looking at the graphics there, you can see there's a lot of dithering going on to increase the colour depth, do the transparencies. Incidentally, the Sega Model 1 arcade hardware also used dithering for these, but it was at a much higher resolution, so it looked like an actual transparency. And you can see the dithering there on the bridge to get the colours. You can also, if you look carefully, see the popping for the scenery, which, to be fair, isn't that bad. Now, as we're going around the course here, you can see there's a fairly good amount of trackside detail. In fact, I would say that this is comfortably outclassing everything that was produced on Nintendo's Super FX chip, not the Nintendo FX as I said in the intro. And it's not only is it producing more polygons, but it's producing them at a better frame rate, and to be honest, a more stable looking frame rate. You can see there are a few glitches here and there with the popping and some bits of scenery just not quite rendering incorrectly on occasion. Certain things have been sacrificed. If you hit any of the trackside details, such as any signs or anything, you just go straight through them. That was a easy way of keeping the frame rate up. But it is, overall, it's a good looking game. I mean, nobody can criticise Sega and say that this was not a worthy title. So, that was Virtua Racing for the Mega Drive. Now we're going to have a look at the kind of, sort of sequel-ish for the 32X Virtua Racing Deluxe. Now, I don't have a copy of that physically, so this will be done through emulation. But the 32X version was another significant step up from this. Graphics are sharper, the frame rate's much improved, there's bonus tracks, bonus cars. It is, when all said and done, a brilliant little game on itself. But let's have a little look at that and we'll see where that took us to. And here we go with the 32X version. So you'll see instantly there's a much higher polygon count, much better rendering of the colours thanks to the 32X's enhanced hardware, and everything does just look that much better. So here we go, a bit of voice work there, if I've got the audio set right. New menu screens which look a lot more attractive, show the system off. There's the alternative cars that are available in this version. And as you can see, there's 5 tracks, 3 classics and 2 new ones, but again, we'll just go for the classic beginner track, or Big Forest as it's been rechristened. The pit crew, while still operating at a very low frame rate, is clearly higher resolution here. And the dithered transparencies are still there, however, they are just there for transparencies in this version. Now, looking around, whilst there is still popping, which may appear to be more prominent than the SVP powered version, you are looking at a massive increase in trackside detail, and again you can see the increased colour depth at play here on the bridge. No dithering to get that orangey red effect. Yeah, as I said, there's a massive increase in trackside detail and a significant increase on the frame rate. I believe the SVP version hovered somewhere around the 15-ish frames per second mark, whereas this is around about 20. Little zoom out there so you can see the increased detail, but it's so obvious as you go around looking at the trees and all the other trackside detail. This is a far, far superior version, as it should be given the hardware it was running on. Now, I would recommend either of these versions. If you have the 32X, this would be your preference, but if you don't, you can pick up the SVP version pretty cheap. So there you go, there's the Sega versions of Virtua Racing for the 32X and the Megadrive. Now I know there were versions for the Saturn, the PS2, some other bits and pieces, but I'm not looking at those simply because I don't have them, and I actually find that the cartridge versions are the more interesting ones to look at based on what was achieved when you compare it to the original Model 1 arcade machine and the home hardware. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, do hit the like and subscribe buttons. Until next time, this is Rob saying so long.